Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever edition of The Nerve at Night. The Nerve at Night. Welcome to our lair. And it's not like Bill Maher's sleazy man cave, just the nerve, but it's the nerve at night. So we are going to be getting up to all kinds of trouble and blowing off steam with you, whether it's after a long day at work or you're on your commute, you're coming home from school. Maybe you just met with some people who rubbed you the wrong way. We're generally sharing an exhale. It is the end of the day. It is cocktail hour. It is time to relax. And for our inaugural episode, we begin with a banger. Ryan Reynolds. We touched on Ryan a couple of weeks back after he was an absolute monster. And hey, monster was his own self-description in that clip to a child journalist on a red carpet. And trust me, that is the least of Ryan Reynolds and his offenses. And there's some really nice symmetry here. It just worked out this way. It wasn't planned. But given that our first ever segment on our first ever Nerve, and if you go back, I can't even look at it. I'm sure you can hear my voice shaking with nerves. But our first ever Nerve segment was a deep dive into Jon Hamm's psychopathic tormenting of a fraternity pledge in college. Almost killed the kid. Allegedly, reportedly, never been denied by Jon Hamm. He said it was a bummer of a thing that happened. That's a direct quote, because I've never forgotten the way he put that together. A bummer of a thing that happened. Well, John, you got some competition in one Ryan Reynolds. Do you have arson in your past? If not, step aside. The Nerve at Night may become the dedicated home for psychopaths roaming around Hollywood, thus far unfettered, and we troublemakers will see to that. Next, we're going to go a little bit lighter. We're going to have your questions and your problems, which we here at the Nerve at Night asked for. And I'll offer my thoughts and suggestions. And then we have an added bonus. We have yet another piece of breaking nerve news for you troublemakers. We are launching a Substack. This is what I've been referencing when I'm saying we've been working on a place where everyone can go and we can all really talk to each other outside of the Nerve. We're doing a Substack. So it's going to be a place where you guys can go and talk to me and to the Nerve team, to the producers. You already know Marlena, and you'll talk to each other so we can put your questions, like when we do this every Wednesday or Thursday, Nerve at Night, Wednesday nights. It's been a wild week. We'll put your questions in the Substack, and then you guys can offer up your suggestions and your takes, and this smart and funny. And, we at the Nerve have teeth for days, but the truth of this cohort is it is an amazingly kind and thoughtful group of people. And only a group as special and unique as this could problem solve together in a way that I think will be extremely helpful. So that's among many other dedicated features, by the way, that we're working on for the Substack. And also we're going to include a competition because you guys are so artistic, in which you select which piece of merch should be next. And we'll have polls and we'll vote and we'll throw things up there. We can do design competitions, whatever you want. So we are aiming to launch the Substack next Friday. So we will keep you updated. Okay, then back to the show. We're going to wrap things up with an original nepo baby, an OG, as it were, who, like so many of our offenders, refuses to take the note that the culture and and commerce have been giving her for decades now. And that note is, get out. We don't want you here. And this one is a doozy. It's a doozy. It's got a great backstory. She's got a rival for the ages and a level of delusion of delulu that we would put right up there with one Violet Affleck. And that is a high bar. It's a high bar to clear. So are you ready to cause some trouble under the cover of darkness, metaphorical and otherwise? If so, welcome to the Nerve at Night. Let's go. Every woman knows all too well that hormone issues are real and that they can hit hard. Up to 80% of women deal with imbalances, PMS, mood swings, brain fog, thinning hair, you name it. And it's tough to feel like yourself when your body is out of whack. If any of this sounds familiar, Try Glow by Beam. This is a women's powder packed with 18 powerhouse ingredients designed to tackle hormonal imbalances. It also boosts energy, mood, metabolism, and even strengthens hair and nails. Glow by Beam is 10 calories. It's vegan, it's gluten-free, and it tastes amazing. You will wind up with steady energy, clearer skin, and strong nails. All you need to do is mix one packet with water. It is that simple. Glow's holistic approach supports thyroid function and collagen production. And with over 40,000 women and 3,000 five-star plus reviews, it is legit. For a limited time, Beam is offering Nerve listeners up to 35% off Glow. Just visit shopbeam.com/nerve and use code NERVE at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/nerve and use code NERVE for your exclusive discount. Ryan Reynolds. This guy has it coming. And as I said on an earlier Nerve, when we showed video of him being a complete and utter monster to a child journalist. Just wait, Ryan. Just wait. And the time has arrived. The time is now. We are inaugurating the Nerve at Night, just as we inaugurated the Nerve back in April, with audio, video, and print confirmation that an A-list star who masquerades as a nice guy is, in fact, a psychopath. Just my opinion. Ryan Reynolds is a psychopath, in my opinion. And he brought it all on himself. He made us open this Pandora's box when he and his equally vile, loathsome wife, Blake Lively, went after Justin Baldoni and tried to ruin Justin's life, his family, his career, and his reputation. Just, the only things that really matter in this world. So we're going to begin, and I'm going to lay out my case with a ton of evidence. Okay, so settle in. We're going to begin with a clip that recently went viral. Ryan, once again, on a red carpet, being a complete jerk, this time to Eugene Levy. Eugene Levy, who is beloved and who, Ryan, was chosen by none other than Prince William recently for an exclusive one-on-one interview, okay? So let's take a look at Ryan seeming to bully Eugene, who visibly looks confused, okay, on the red carpet. And this is for the premiere of the documentary about the late John Candy. And it's basically the premise of it. Remember, Ellen DeGeneres, Queen of Nice, right? People who are obsessed with depicting kindness and promoting it, watch out. This is Ryan with Eugene on the red carpet at the premiere of this documentary, which took place on September 4th. Let's take a look. Now, Ryan seems to be telling Eugene, and he dismisses him. And Eugene, go away. These are my journalists. This is my moment. Shuffle off, old man. Shuffle off. Hey, I'm going to smack that smile on now and shake hands with this journalist who's waiting for me. Okay, we got it. We're good. So this is what Ryan's comfortable doing in public, which tells me that he is capable of a lot worse in private. And you guys will not believe what we found. You're not going to believe it. So to begin, here is your friend and mine, Megyn Kelly, interviewing Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, about the behaviors alleged here by Blake and Ryan.
He was involved in this to some extent. There was a meeting at their apartment at which you allege that there were some senior production people who witnessed him allegedly berate Justin Baldoni to the point where these third parties felt upset that they didn't do more to stand up for Justin, that they thought Ryan Reynolds was so abusive.
Now, you know how we always say here at the Nerve, now at the Nerve at Night, that so many celebrities tell us exactly who they are, that they hide in plain sight. So take a listen to Ryan's very quick answer, very quick comeback to a very basic question.
Strangers describe me as
extremely disloyal.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it, Ryan. Now, as this lawsuit filed by Blake Lively dropped like a bomb And Justin Baldoni countersued. Non-celebrities, civilians in the know, felt emboldened to share their stories about Ryan, even if anonymously, which shows you they're still scared to a degree. And that tells us something. That tells us a lot. And by the way, Ryan pretty obviously trolled Justin in Deadpool and Wolverine. If you want to see those clips, you can easily find them online. I'm not going to show it here because we here at The Nerve are Team Justin. But that is how bold and untouchable Ryan Reynolds thinks he is, mocking a fellow filmmaker in his own movie. Okay? So here, take a listen and a look at Kennedy, who is my colleague at the Daily Mail, talking on her podcast about Ryan threatening another hardworking industry person. And this clip is about 6 months old. Take a look.
And Ryan Reynolds, by all accounts, seems like a great guy. He is acting. By all accounts, he is a total pain in the ass. I heard a story yesterday of a studio executive who was so frustrated with him when they were shooting Deadpool 2 because Ryan Reynolds had to do some reshoots for the movie. His makeup artist was out of the country working. Ryan Reynolds threatened to fire the makeup artist off the rest of the film and the reshoots they had to do, and also said, if you don't come back and do my makeup for these reshoots, you will never work in Hollywood again. He's one of those guys.
If that is indeed true, and I have every reason to believe it, it all tracks. He's really a monster who just gets off on bullying other people and making them do his bidding. There are no shortage of professional makeup artists that he could have hired and called upon, and there's no shortage of magic that they can't work post-production for anything. You're behind a mask the whole movie. Why do you fucking need him? Oh. Anyway, okay. Building our case. I need to keep my composure. Now, next, let's watch and listen as the actor TJ Miller, who is himself controversial, but what he has to say rings true. TJ very openly tells Adam Carolla on Adam's show about why he's never going to would never work with Ryan Reynolds again.
Would I work with him again? No. I sort of wish him well because he's so good at Deadpool, and I think it's weird that he hates me.
Do you know he hates
We
you?
had a really weird moment on Deadpool where he said, let's do one more take. And then as the character, he was like horrifically mean to me, but to me, as if I'm Weasel. Mm-hmm. So he was like, what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star. You do just enough exposition that is funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie.
So he's riffing.
I just kind of listened and thought it was weird, and then I got off stage and I walked over and the whole crew was acting weird. And then I went up to Kate and I was like, that was weird, right? And she was like, of course it was fucking weird. It was insane. Everybody was like, why is Ryan doing this? And the other weird thing is like, I think he's kind of an insecure dude. His Twitter bio is showing you the parts of me that tested the best in focus groups. And I'm not sure that he's joking.
I don't think he's joking. I think Ryan Reynolds couches everything in like a wink and a smile and like an insincere laugh. As I've said, dead eyes. His dead eyes. And I think that he presents what tests well. I think he does. And I think he's creepy AF. I really do. Now, what is to come as we build up to the big crime, in my view, is proof that Ryan is, in fact, a sadist and a psychopath. And God, do I feel for the 4 children that he and Blake have. And, it's got to make you wonder, because Taylor Swift was tight with these two for a very long time. You are the company you keep. Now, you may know that Ryan stars as Deadpool mainly because he never shuts up about it. Here's a fun anecdote that Ryan shared about the making of the most recent Deadpool movie until clearly his publicist or his crisis manager told him to shut his mouth. So this is the story that Ryan tells of bullying his own child, his daughter Inez, 7 years old. She told him, I think this kid didn't even want to be in the movie at all. But he said, here's the line of dialogue I want you to read. And she told him she didn't want to do it. And not least because it is a sexually graphic line. She really, really didn't want to do it. And I would imagine there were tears. And you know what? Let's listen to Ryan himself talking to the movie's director, Sean Levy, about how this little domestic conflict, which he brought to the set of his movie, I'm sure it was very, very disruptive, resolved itself. This, by the way, is from the movie's official commentary. Here we go.
Our fight isn't with
Hey,
you.
when I want your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's dick out of your mouth.
That's kid.
Guiltily, that is my daughter,
I'm
Inez.
so sorry we have to admit that.
And I am Father of the Year over here for allowing her to say such language, which, to her credit, she really didn't want to say. And then came back later and said, I want to say it now, when I started looking at other people to
Sure.
play.
Yeah,
Ryan.
but Ryan, to our discredit, we made Nezzy do, I'm not shitting you,
Nezzy.
70 to 500 versions
Yeah.
of that line.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there's a big gap between 70 versions and 500 versions. So I'm going to guess these two sadists who think they're making great cinema over here made this 7-year-old who said, hey, Dad, if she even calls him that, she's probably way more familiar with the nannies. I don't want to do this. I don't want to say this language. I don't want to talk about somebody having a dick in their mouths. I'm 7. To quote Willow Smith, when her parents were like, hey, you should go audition for this thing, she said, how about I just be 12? This is per a Newsweek report by Aaron Rasmussen, dated March 27th, 2025. The Newsweek headline, Ryan Reynolds under fire for letting daughter 7. That's the wrong word, letting. I think that word should be bullying. This is why you have to look at everything that's in front of your face. It's diabolical. Letting daughter 7 deliver not safe for work Deadpool line. The two then moved on to other topics. But their discussion, I believe this is from the Newsweek piece, caught the attention of critics on a Reddit forum. Again, critics, I just think logical, sane people. I don't think they're critics. What, because you take issue with something a celebrity has done, has self-admittedly done? You're a critic? Anyway, people I'd love to have a cocktail with on a Reddit forum titled Ryan Reynolds admits to coaching his daughter to deliver, quote, sick and disturbing line in Deadpool and Wolverine. Comment 1. There is no reason she needed to deliver that line herself. It is a character with a mask and no visible mouth. It could easily have been dubbed over. And you know who it could have been done by, Ryan? Adults who specialize in doing child voices, like the Pamela Adlins of the world, like the adult actors who specialize in doing like animated TV shows and films. But no, that wouldn't quench the sadist in Ryan. Number 2, I wouldn't care if it was just swearing, but getting a kid to make a sexual joke is gross. Agreed. A third remarked, quote, I don't care what the intent was behind line. And again, we're in this world where, well, my intent, and I could make it up ad hoc, I could make it up after the fact, is supposed to ameliorate, if not explain away and excuse the very thing I did. I don't give a shit about your intent. The law doesn't, whatever. I mean, the law sometimes does care about intent, but I'll leave that to the lawyers. The comment, I don't care what the intent was behind the line. It is overtly sexual, and no kid has any business saying it, let alone in a movie made by their parent. And in fact, said parent, if they were doing their job, would keep their kid far away from anything having to do with that. Okay. And by the way, in that very scene, the gags, these like in jokes that celebrities love to play because they think we all like appreciate them. We don't. I don't give a shit. Blake Lively is behind one of those masks as in a character. She's standing next to her own daughter. So she was apparently on set that day when Ryan and Sean Levy were making their 7-year-old daughter, Blake's and Ryan, say that line, get your dick out of your mouth 500 times. This is AI exists, you asshole. Okay, this is from a YouTube channel called Flawsome. I hope I'm saying your name right, with Kirsty Flaw.
I can fake empathy pretty well.
Believe him. Just believe him, because I don't think he's capable of empathy. People who are actually empathetic, and that's anyone who's not a psychopath, we all have empathy, and we don't talk about having to fake it because we have it, and it's a gift. It's what makes us human. Ryan doesn't have empathy. That's why he's talking about how he can fake it and fake it well. I actually don't think he's a great actor. I've never bought his shtick. I've always thought he was really dark. I've always thought he has dead eyes and he wants to be liked way too much. And when you want everybody to like you, you got a real problem. Because not everybody's going to like you. So why bother? Just be yourself. But he can't be himself. Only in glimpses do we get it, right? So here we go. Here's another one. And this is how long he's been doing this, by the way. He also told this howler, he thinks this is a funny anecdote, about taking a dick pic with his father's camera and leaving the family dinner table to do it. This was on the Conan O'Brien show. So this is 10 years ago. Here's Ryan.
I was a terrible child. Let me preface it with that. I was about 18
He's
years
telling
old.
the truth.
And in the middle of the dinner once, I grabbed the camera and I went in the bathroom and I just took a picture of my penis. Yeah. And I just wanted to see if he would naturally edit these photos at some point. Nope. He
sent it out?
Yeah. So I think there's one day, I hope it doesn't happen, but there's a penis picture of mine floating around somewhere.
Well,
You know, this is how like normalized this really like it's deviant behavior, I think, has become. Like the studio audience just laughed because he's a famous movie star and he's clean cut and he looks wholesome and he has a pretty wife. And I mean, I don't know at that time if he was married to Scarlett Johansson, but I can only imagine the stories she's got. You know, but he looks presentable and he's on a respected late night talk show. And, you know, this is a quirky anecdote and really it's not. It's really effing dark. And note there, by the way, how he blamed his father for his deviant behavior because daddy wasn't paying attention. So we had to do something to get it. Here, Ryan admits to sexually assaulting the actress Olivia Wilde during a sex scene on the set of the 2011 bomb, The Change Up. And this story is so old that Jay Leno was still hosting The Tonight Show. Here we go.
So in the scene, she's sitting there, and I take her top off, I take her bra off, and she has the those pasties on.
Right.
But
Which
she's
she
drawing
should
these
have on.
adorable little smiley faces on.
Trying to
And I
defuse
forget
anything, you
every
asshole.
line in the scene. Not just from this movie, from every other movie I've done. And I don't
rehearsed
really
that
know
line.
I'm sort of going up. I'm nervous. I'm blithering on about nothing. And at some point in the scene, she takes my hands and puts them on her breasts. Mm-hmm. So they're there. Palms are a little sweaty. Don't know what's happening. And then at the end of the scene, I'm supposed to take them. And I'm trying not to look at her like a 14-year-old boy who just won the lady lottery.
Right.
And
Won the lady lottery. Is that what it's called? The lady lottery.
And I'm trying not to do it. And I take, at some point in the scene, I have to take my hands away. And I take my hands away. And I look down at my hands, and there's two freaking smiley faces on them. And I have no idea what to do. So, the scene is over now. There's 65 crew members around. I mean, there's all these guys. There's like the one, the jackpot.
She's humiliated.
I'm sitting there, and I reflexively, like an idiot, just put my hands right back on her breasts. And I think I'm doing it to cover them up, but I'm like realizing right now it's a very fine line between chivalry and, workplace sexual assault.
You know what's really funny? Sexual assault. Nothing's more hilarious. And those things that are used to cover women during sex scenes, they're hard to get off, okay? It's not like they just fall off. So he's telling a lie, in my opinion. Now, Deadpool director Tim Miller. Now, this movie was a hit. It was a huge surprise hit, and it set the stage for a franchise. Most directors don't walk away from that stuff. Tim Miller did. Here he is in a 2019 interview with KCRW as re-reported by Men's Health. The headline, Deadpool director Tim Miller says he left the franchise because of Ryan Reynolds. And by the way, as discussed on The Nerve, it very rarely do people in the industry speak publicly out of school about bad behavior because you need to work again. And today's enemy might be tomorrow's best friend. And it is clear that Ryan Reynolds is such a problem child that people have no problem talking about what a monster he is, okay? Tim, quote, "It became clear that Ryan wanted to be in control of the franchise." Sound familiar to the Justin Baldoni lawsuit in which Ryan and Blake are reported to have been attempting to wrest control of the Colleen Hoover franchise that Justin was building away from Justin so Blake could have it. Sounds familiar to me. That's just my opinion. Quote, Tim, you can work that way as a director with the actor in control quite successfully, but I can't. I don't mind having a debate, but if I can't win, I don't want to play. And I don't think you can negotiate every creative decision. There's too many to make. That's why they're called directors, Ryan. Back to Tim. So Ryan's the face of the franchise, and he was the most important component of that by far. If he decides he wants to control it, then he's going to control it. Ryan's ex-drama teacher, in the wake of the lawsuit and these allegations that Blake and Ryan were casting about. And, never forget, reportedly, Taylor Swift was in the room at that meeting that I believe Megyn Kelly was referencing at the top of the show, where people were so put off by how aggressively Ryan was bullying Justin that they felt they should have intervened, but they could not because Ryan's top of the food chain. You can't tell me Taylor doesn't know. These are birds of a feather. Trust me. Don't be distracted by her. I mean, we are distracted by it and we are going to talk about it, like her lyrics about Travis's penis. But, I think there's some real dark stuff there. Anyway, Ryan's ex-drama teacher reached out to Candace Owens with a shocking claim. And she shows the email in this clip. This story that Candace tells, it's a little bit long, but trust me when I tell you, it is thoroughly engrossing. Here we go.
This message arrived in my box, and it's about his first drama teacher from when he was 13 years old. And I think it's interesting to share. And again, this is going to be a much older person. I think that's relevant because there are two people who always tell the truth, and that's senior citizens and toddlers. They just get to a place where they just constantly are telling you the truth about everything, and they don't care what anybody has to think about it or say about it. And so this right. individual wrote this. I'm cutting off the person's name, obviously, because I'm afraid Ryan Reynolds will go after him. It came in from Alberta, Canada. He said, it may be an odd thing. I was his first acting teacher. True. Summer 1989, he was 12. His parents had gone on a vacation. So grandparents he was left with had him for 3 weeks, as I recall. After a week, they enrolled him in my classes, essentially, as I found out, because they needed a break from him. Within the first 3 days, I had had enough. The other kids had had enough, and their parents were complaining because everything was about him. Self-centered, loud, sneaky, obnoxious, narcissistic, unkind, and deceitful. I spoke to the grandparents that he needed to abide by the expectations, or I'd punt him and give them a refund. The next day, same old. So I kicked him out. 2 days back with the grandparents, they begged me to take him back. So I set on a couple of conditions. I drew up a quote unquote contract, essentially reiterating the initial expectations, but adding some behavioral things I had noticed that needed to be addressed. And he had to write an apology letter to the class and either read it to the class or memorize it and present it to the class like a script. And if the other students said no, then no, it would be. But I did hold the final say. I work with kids in mental health. I have for decades. This was nothing new to me. So he returned. The kids were a bit shocked, but he was on probation. And then he was asked, Ryan, is there something that you'd like to say to other students here? Yes, if I may. He got up, audience of 15 plus kids, paper in hand. He glanced down at it, started to read it, then stuttered, cleared his throat, swallowed, then started without the paper. Tears started to well in his eyes. I'm so sorry that I, heavy breathing, selfishly stole time from you all as Mr. David was trying to teach us all about acting and I made it about me. And I just want to say that I will do my best to listen and will try really hard not to interrupt. Tears now. And it's just that nobody really listens to me. So sniff, I will try my best to be better. Sorry, full tears. The kids were on their feet, over to give him a hug, etc. Can he come back to our class, please? So I said yes. A few minutes later, he passes by me and under his breath utters, I was acting.
That is a chilling story. It's chilling. He was 12. His grandparents couldn't handle him for 3 weeks. Imagine what the parents were like dealing with him. They were begging this drama teacher, please take this problem child off of our hands. Please take him back. We cannot have him in the house. And, the words that the former drama teacher used to describe him at 12: sneaky, unkind, narcissistic, deceitful. These are dark, dark traits. Ryan slapped a child actor as an adult on the set of the Amityville Horror remake. Slapped a child and then made fun of this assault. Because isn't it funny? I'm going to tell you who you are. He gets off on this. This is his kink. He gets off on telling us exactly who he is and trying to make us think that he's actually just a quirky, funny guy. He said slapping the kid was great. And I'm sure he slapped him more than once. Just my guess, just my supposition. In an interview with Michael J. Lee of Radio Free Entertainment, published April 1st, 2005. Question: you slapped one of the kids even though it wasn't planned in the script? Ryan: yeah, he had it coming. No, it was actually horrible. Believe him the first time. Ryan goes on: I didn't mean to do it. It wasn't hard or anything. So you didn't mean to do it, but it wasn't hard to slap a kid. Because I'm going to tell you, if that was in the script, any adult actor worth their salt would be like, we're using a body double, like a small person, or we're going to cheat this shot, or we're going to make it look like AI, but there's no way in hell I'm hitting a child. There's no way in hell I'm laying hands on a child. But no, Ryan, again, it wasn't hard or anything. He says the kid looked up like he had just won the lottery. Sure, because it's so great to be hit if it's Ryan Reynolds doing it to you, right? The famous Ryan Reynolds. It was just so cool to him, Ryan says. I don't believe you, Ryan. And I look over and the script supervisor is crying. And Ryan says he's trying to apologize to the script supervisor, who's clearly so disturbed by what she has just seen that she's crying. And she's also probably crying because even the director can't have the fucking balls to go over to Ryan and say, hey, not allowed. Question: you were possessed by a dark force, right? Ryan: yes, exactly. Exclamation point. Of course, exclamation point. The Indians did it to me, exclamation point. The Indians did it. It was one of those great moments, Ryan says. In a perverse way, I was sort of excited by the fact that something happened on film that was just totally unplanned. And it just came out organically enough, and not so organically that it actually hurt anyone. Well, if the script supervisor was crying, I'm going to guess this child was hurt. The force of a grown man, slapping a small child, it hurt that kid. Trust me. Ryan, every sentence conflicts within itself or with the thing he just said, Ryan. So everyone walked away from it, but it was definitely disturbing. Question: you didn't socialize with the kids off camera? Ryan: no, I didn't ever talk to them. I hope when I'm done with this segment that it's really hard to insure Ryan Reynolds for anything. I mean, Justin Baldoni and his lawyer, I think, are going to have their way with Ryan 8 ways to Sunday. But I would like the Nerve to be doing its little part and contributing to the downfall and the ruination of Ryan Reynolds. You know, like I say, I like the God of the Old Testament. I like the God of vengeance and wrath. Now to the big one, the big reveal. And by the way, when we show you this, you will see why I think that there is credence to the long-standing rumor that Ryan Reynolds, when he was a paperboy, bullied another paperboy so viciously that he allegedly, reportedly, long-standing rumor, Reddit threads devoted to it, made that child eat dog feces. Ryan Reynolds is, by his own admission, an arsonist. He set a fire. I have to be careful here. He set a fire that burned down his own elementary school. And he got away with it. And I think he thinks it's funny. And he thinks it's funny because I'm going to reference an old interview that he thinks has been scrubbed from the internet. And you know what, Ryan? I'm a pretty good investigative reporter. And I've got a really great team at the Nerve who's devoted to unmasking monsters like you. So this fire made the front page of the Vancouver Sun, the Canadian Vancouver Sun, which we dug up. This edition is dated Monday, March 30th, 1987. It was written by Gavin Wilson. This is a very well-written story. We are showing this on screen. This is the front page, and look at the accompanying photo. This was an enormous fire, enormous. I quote from this article. 200 Queensboro children are off school today. Remember, it's a Monday edition. After a fire onlookers described as, quote, a thundering mass of flames, end quote, destroyed the aging Queen Elizabeth Elementary School early this morning. My aside, Ryan probably set this fire late on Sunday night or very early on Sunday morning. So just some wholesome suburban fun, okay? Returning to this news article, quote, the fierce blaze almost leveled the school at 510 Ewan, even though the nearest fire station, is just 300 meters away. New Westminster police said arson is being investigated. While the school burned, Queensboro residents, many of them former students, were drawn out of their homes by the flames. Queen Elizabeth School was the only school in Queensboro, a tightly knit community on the northeast tip of Lulu Island. It's a heartbreaker, said Irene Uwoski, 59, a past president of the school's PTA. All 10 of her children have passed through the Queen Elizabeth school doors. There were some former students out here, and the tears were just rolling down their faces, she said. School principal Drew Knox said that the 207 students will be staying home for several days until the school district can decide where they can attend classes. One option is to bus them up to Westminster, he said. Setting up temporary classrooms at the local community center will also be considered. I mean, class at the local community center, how depressing can you get? Now, how do we know for sure that Ryan set this fire and destroyed this school? Because he told us, in part. I'm going to go through his version of events here because we just read that news story together. School was leveled. Fire station right there. By the time they arrived on the site of this fire, the thing had almost burned to the ground. So because Ryan's a liar, my opinion, I'm going to say don't believe the things he says here. Don't believe the out that he gives himself here. And the things that he says, again, they contradict the other reports and the testimony we have heard from his drama teacher, that email that Candace Owen read, and that Vancouver Sun report that we just read. This is from an interview of Ryan Reynolds that the Nerve Central dug up. We at Nerve Central dug this up in the Arizona Daily Star, an American publication, dated Wednesday, September 8th, 2004, byline, Phil Villarreal. The headline, Ryan Reynolds is funny even when he's serious. I beg to differ, Phil, but I also know that writers don't actually write the headlines. That is true. Editors do that. Okay, anyway, quoting from the relevant portion of this profile, while Ryan was out promoting that cinematic piece of art, Blade Trinity, and I'm just being a bitch about it. Listen, I love popcorn movies, but Ryan's an asshole, and he has it coming from every potential direction I can give it to him. Quote from this article, Reynolds, then 28, Reynolds said he'd always been an instigator. He calls himself a, quote, bad kid, end quote, and backs up the claim. Again, Phil, he just told you, just believe him. Backs up the claim with the admissions that he failed high school drama class because he ditched, in parens, quote, I was out working on my personal drama, Ryan said, end parens, and that he once burned down a wing of his elementary school. Sorry, Ryan, that Vancouver Sun piece with photographs shows and reports that you destroyed the entire structure. A wing? Get the fuck out of here, okay? And then that he covered up the crime until now. I'm picking it back up with Phil. I apologize to all the fine students and the faculty, said Reynolds, who admits that he set fire to a tree, which led to a building catching fire. First of all, who sets fire to a tree? I could cry. Like a beautiful, living, innocent thing. He sets fire to it. And then somehow a building caught fire. A wing caught fire. I don't believe it. I think he set fire to the school. I do. I think he deliberately set fire to the school. Ryan Reynolds quoted here in the same piece by Phil Villarreal. Quote, "No one found out who it was. I think the statute of limitations has run out." Trust me, Ryan checked before he admitted this, okay? Back to the piece, back to this quote. Ryan, "I just hope I don't find out that some poor schmo has spent time in jail for it." Trust me, Ryan would have loved that. Would have loved it. Here is something that I personally learned, while I was reporting my book, American Predator. And I learned this from some of the finest minds the FBI has ever seen. It's like textbook studies if you're at Quantico. But up until this point, I didn't know it because I never thought about arsonists before. Why would I? Arsonists, almost 100% of the time, have a sexual relationship with fire. It is sexual for them. Setting fires, watching fire burn, watching firefighters try to put fires out. This is all sexual for them. And I'm going to guess that after Ryan set that fire, he went and hid somewhere where he could watch the fire department respond, and he could watch people come out of their houses and cry because it's a sexual fetish for him. My opinion. So if I can contribute anything to the culture for posterity, it is this. My opinion, just my opinion, that Ryan Reynolds, who's out there as a wholesome husband and dad who just happens to be a movie star and is BFFs with Hugh Jackman, is sexually aroused by setting fires. And you'll never, and smacking kids, and making them say sexually graphic things that they don't want to say, like 500 times. So you will never watch, if I've done my job, a Ryan Reynolds movie again. And you'll never hear his interviews again because you won't want to see him because he'll come on your screen or he'll show up on your computer or your phone and you'll just like zap him down to the nothing that he is. That was extremely satisfying. It really was. It really was. Next up, a couple of ne'er-do-well offenders, one who thinks she was and is a model. And it's not Sunday Rose Kidman Urban. Is it Kidman Urban? Sunday Rose Kidman Urban. It's someone else. It's another Nepo baby. And she's got it coming. Plus your dilemmas. We can talk about them on your commute home again, or your cocktail hour, or your general unwinding. And a banger of an ultimate Nepo baby takedown. I cannot wait. We are back in a minute. So much is going on right now, and things can feel all too heavy, but there is, in fact, something simple that unites us all: supporting small American-made and owned businesses. That's right, because when you choose to buy from a small business, you're not just getting a product, you are helping someone's dream grow, and you're investing in the values so many of us share: honesty, craftsmanship, and community. And that is what a warehouse is all about. They have teamed up with nearly 100 small business makers across the United States to bring you handmade goods filled with heart and creativity, uniting people of all backgrounds in this singular mission. So let's choose connection over division and show small businesses the support they deserve. Visit awarehouseshop.com and use code THENERVE for 15% off your first order. That is awarehouseshop.com, code THENERVE. Welcome back. Now, before we get to troublemaker dilemmas, because even troublemakers have their own trouble, we have some cultural cleanup to do. First, Cheryl Hines. And by the way, if you've read Ask Not, and I'm going to say something as the anniversary of Martha Moxley's murder approaches, which is at the end of this month. Cheryl Hines is a villain in Ask Not, and I don't like this woman. Listen, I understand life is messy, and she started up with Bobby Kennedy Jr. while he was still married to his second wife, Mary Richardson Kennedy, who has her own chapter in my book. And Cheryl Hines was a monster to this woman. She was rubbing it in Mary's face, and she was actively contributing, my opinion, to Mary's despair and her mental unraveling and her deep depression. And now she's out flogging her forthcoming memoir, a book deal she got, let's be honest, only because of who she's married to, that prize, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You know, Mary wound up committing suicide. And, you know, now Cheryl really knows what it's like to be a Kennedy wife because Bobby has reportedly cheated on her, allegedly only digitally. I guess we got over that. Trust me, you know, Cheryl's got it coming. By the way, when you look at her, you're going to see the outsides are matching the insides, okay? We have gotten work done for this media tour, and I think her dermatologist and or her plastic surgeon fucking hate her because she looks like a monster. Outsides matching the insides, just my opinion. So here sits Cheryl with the toothless CBS Mornings, which is spearheaded by astronaut Gail. I truly wonder how long Gail is going to last under the newly appointed editor-in-chief of news over there, Barry Weiss. Gail, call your financial consultant. Here's Cheryl being asked about her communication style with Bobby. So, I mean, like any of us care. Anyway, okay, let's take a look.
It's very interesting because Bobby and I'm definitely the one that has all the feelings, and he's the one that wants to talk about the facts and the studies and so
I never slept with that
really
woman. That's Bobby's fact.
Communicating.
Allegedly.
Do you let him know your
I'm not
opinions,
cheating.
though?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do. Bobby and I mean, sometimes we have heated discussions, but we always come back around to, I hear what you're saying.
Bobby, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you would prefer that I am not like a lying, cheating dog. I hear what you're saying. Just why don't we just ask the real questions here? Come on, you know? We're talking like we're dancing around Donald Trump. Let's ask the real questions. Why did you stick with your husband like so many Kennedy wives before you? It's 2025, lady. Why don't you just cut bait? Okay, we'll be covering her book. If it's worth it, we'll cover her book. Now on to one Ella Emhoff, who really presents like a filthy hipster. Like there's like culturally filthy, you know, like indie sleaze, and there's like hygienically, you look like you're filthy. And now that stepmommy Kamala is back in the news, this family of winners, here comes Ella, who the fashion industry tried to make a model. They tried really hard to make her a model. And she now, thank you for that, fashion industry, because she now labors under the delusion that she herself is a super stylish influencer. Let's look at Ella on her Instagram the other day.
Good morning. Monday. It's been a while since I've
in
done
her
this.
sloppy,
That's strange.
no
Also,
doubt
this top
financed
is
by
from the process.
mom, daddy, and
These pants are from
stepmommy
Story MFG,
apartment in Brooklyn.
And these are Keens in that happy.
She's doing a
collab.
fit check
This
like
is
any of us
the
want to
rad
dress
roller.
like her.
It's like a portable body roller, muscle roller, but
body
I bring this
rolling.
everywhere.
Wait
I
till
use
wait
it
till you
multiple
see her
times
get
a
on the
day,
floor.
and I'm going to show you some ways that I use it. So one of the first things I like to do is
This is
put this
so
at the base of
awkward
my
and gross. Okay,
spine
we can
and
end it
just
right here.
roll
You know what I'm getting? You know what I'm getting from this? I'm getting Terry Richardson vibes. If you remember Terry Richardson, for a long time in the aughts, he was like shooting all of the like American Apparel, like softcore porn ads. And they even did like a Law and Order that was like Terry Richardson inspired, where like the photographer was like molesting models. By the way, I would just like to put out a call. I would, and I'm very, very serious because you know I'm an actor now. If there's anyone in the Troublemaker cohort who is part of the Law and Order universe, any of the shows, SVU, LNO, the original, Criminal, whatever. Sorry, not Criminal Intent, but you know, organized crime now. My dream, one of my literal dreams is to play a judge on Law and Order. When I saw years back that they cast Fran Lebowitz as a judge on Law and Order, I thought it was like so brilliant. And that's what I would like for myself. I would love to be a judge on Law and Order. I really think I could execute for you guys. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to put it out there, and you know, who knows? But otherwise, I've got my criminal cultural prosecutions going on over here. Okay, now, troublemaker questions. And again, these and a few emails, these are going to have a dedicated space on our Substack so you guys can offer your takes. To that, by the way, Maureen, please put all your book, movie, and song suggestions somewhere where we can find them. I have missed so many good ones in the car or when I couldn't jot them down. Going on the Substack. Okay, my friend. Maureen, good morning. Michelle Obama, why is her podcast still going? Can someone please throw brother Craig a lifeline? Craig, consider your friends here at the Nerve. We see you. We are throwing you a virtual metaphorical lifeline. And if you ever want to take refuge here, our doors are always open. Okay. Always open for you, brother Craig. Craig, Kristen writes. Kristen's a frequent writer. We read you a lot, Kristen. His shoulders are up by his ears. They are. He's like terrified. He's terrified. He's closing in on himself to try and protect. Once they left the White House, nobody saw their marriage as ideal because nobody was interested. Only an idiot would think that marriage is easy. We don't need her to repeatedly tell us that. You don't go to therapy for anyone but yourself. Your life doesn't have to be abnormal, Michelle. You make it that way. People a lot more famous than you keep their life private. Well said. And one more vis-a-vis Michelle from Troublemaker Patricia. Hi, remember, Michelle's big complaint, as discussed on the mini, is now the way that Barack chews. She wants to smack him. Like Ryan Reynolds smacking a child actor. She wants to smack the shit out of Barack Obama because of the way he chews. Hi, Maureen. I was married to a guy who constantly schooled my children and I on how to properly eat. He thought we hit our utensils against our teeth and it bothered him. We were supposed to just close our lips around the utensil. He is, to this day, a very dangerous man. I truly believe he is a serial killer. We're not calling Michelle Obama a serial killer, but just like the theory that Garth Brooks is secretly a serial killer. And let me know if you'd like us to do a deep dive with you on this, because we'll do it. We're not saying Michelle is a serial killer, just that she sort of manifests several qualities that one could say are akin. Back to Patricia's email. Being on neighborhood, her ex was on the neighborhood board. He used to also measure the lawns in the neighborhood and wanted to issue citations if the grass was, quote, too long. Unfortunately, he poisoned the well against me in the minds of my sons and everyone who knew me when we were together. So he is unfortunately still able to be abusive to us. Parental alienation. He didn't kill any of us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's a different story. And that is currently what Michelle Obama is doing. Just my opinion. Okay, now on to your questions. Let's hive mind and problem solve. So here's the situation from our anonymous troublemaker. Again, these are all pseudonyms. I've been friends with Sabrina for over 30 years. Over time, we've had periods of losing touch. We always seem to find our way back to each other. The last time we reconnected was a few years ago, and it became the norm for her husband, Harold, to join us whenever we hung out. He's a likable guy, so it didn't feel intrusive. Next month, I am hosting a pre-holiday season gathering. It's casual, but I am going a little bit above and beyond, specifically with the party favors, which are being engraved. Because of that, I need my final guest count sooner than usual. When I reached out to Sabrina and Harold, it was Harold who replied via text, verbatim, quote, I checked with the boss, I guess Sabrina's the boss, and we are currently, date of text September 3rd, and this troublemaker sent the email on October 4th. So a month has elapsed now. We are currently free that day unless something comes up. What, like something better? Like, is there an emergency situation? Is there a sick relative? Because that's the only thing that I could imagine would preclude RSVPing yes. Okay? So the vagueness there, I'm just going to tell you, troublemaker, that my antenna go up. Okay? So unless something comes up, we should be able to attend. Again, that's another qualifier. We should be able to attend. It's not like we're really looking forward to this. We really hope that nothing else comes to pass. Like, this is a lukewarm message. And I also don't like that it was sent by Harold and not Sabrina, if Sabrina is really the friend. I'm friends with one of my best friends. I consider her husband a very good friend. But if I texted her and her husband texted me back, I'd be like, something's off. Okay. At first, the tone rubbed me the wrong way. I agree with you. Troublemaker. It felt vague and dismissive. I think you should listen to your gut. Here. Especially, Troublemaker writes, since I've always gone out of my way to meet them over the past decade. Now I'm stuck. I don't think you're stuck, and I'll tell you why. Troublemaker continues, the message technically says they're coming, but it feels like a no. With everything else going on in my life, which I won't unpack here, but it is a lot. I might be more emotional than usual, and that's okay. So I'm turning to the Nerve crew. Do I follow up or just leave it and assume they're not coming? I would love to hear what you and the Nerve fam think. Oh, the Nerve fam. I love that. We're like a little family developing here. Okay. Now, I'm going to say something. I have found, just personally, that sometimes when your emotions are more at the surface because you are going through something, it actually can have a very clarifying effect. Your antenna are that much more tuned into things and people that feel off or really aren't working for you. And maybe these are things and people that historically you wanted to believe were fine or okay, is what it is. I'm getting the impression from your question, Troublemaker, that you're the one who has always made the effort. I'm going to guess that 9 times out of 10, you're the one reaching out to Sabrina. You're the one who's traveling to meet Sabrina and Harold. I'm going to guess that Sabrina has never once said, hey, does it bother you that like Harold comes all the time? Like, you know what we need? We need some one-on-one time. Why don't you and I just go out to dinner or meet for a drink? I really want to hear what's going on with you. You can't really speak freely with a third person there, So this is what my suggestion is. I think your gut is right. And what I would do is treat this, and this is also a great hack going forward with any invitation you might send out. Just say, I need RSVPs, like the RSVP date is date certain. You just put a deadline on it and it's a yes or a no. It's that simple. Maybe isn't a question. It isn't an option. And if they're trying to force you into a maybe and into a limbo, I think that's narcissistic. I think that's selfish, So I'm sorry to say this, but I think Sabrina and Harold might actually be doing you a favor here. I think they might. And, if you are really going through a lot, all the more reason that Sabrina and Harold should be understanding and supportive and just give you a hearty, we'll be there. We wouldn't miss it. So that's it for question 1. We've got others, and we want you to send in yours, whether they're social, whether they're work, whether they're family, whatever they are. Send them our way, and we will all put our collective heads together and tackle it for you. Next up, time to take down this Nepo baby bitch. I'm just going to be a bitch about it because this woman will not get out of our faces despite decades of us showing collective disinterest. No, sorry, that's the wrong word. Uninterest, woodshed. Take myself to the woodshed. VIP room, nonetheless, I'm in the woodshed. Uninterest. Low these many years. We are back in a minute. I don't know if this guy has shown up in your algorithm, but have you possibly come across the 80s action film star and karate champion Chuck Norris recently? This guy is in his 80s and you would never know it. He has made an online video that offers some pretty great and simple health tips, things that he does that keep him feeling young and strong. Chuck says he feels like he's in his 50s. You too can check out what Chuck has been up to and try it for yourself. And here is how. Watch his video now at chuckdefense.com/nerve. Chuck is a troublemaker. That's chuckdefense.com/nerve. And to make it even easier, we have linked it below the video so you can check it out yourself. It's pretty quick. And seriously, this can be a game changer. You should all check it out. Check it out right now. chuckdefense.com/nerve. We're back. We are back at the first Nerve at Night. The Nerve at Night, I should say, proper. Now, troublemakers, I submit to you, bypassing the woodshed and going straight to the wood chipper. One, Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea has been trying to make it in media as a media star, as the star she so clearly thinks she is. All this access. She's been a public person since childhood. She thinks there's someone out there who has yet to discover her, this bright star. I mean, she's only been at it for like 200 years now. So one of these days, am I right? One of these days, something's going to click. Now, before we get to what else? Her new podcast. Let's revisit some of Chelsea's former media endeavors. Chelsea, that glamorous, charismatic, edgy, provocative, upper crust, super smart, undeniable talent who also reads great on camera. And I'm just going to be a bitch about this, as I said, because as I lay it out here, I'm going to lay out my case that Chelsea is a bitch. And she is taking away jobs and opportunities from actually talented people who lack her pedigree and her connections. She continues to be given chance after chance to fail. And by the way, Chelsea, once again, this is how poisonous this shit is. She's delusional, and the culture and the CEOs around this country have made her that way. Again, this is not for the first time she's considering running for office here in New York. And you know who she would be going against if he does it? Her male counterpart. And it's not a compliment, Chelsea, because your male counterpart is the wholly underwhelming and, in my opinion, mentally unstable, potentially drug-addled, just my opinion, presents that way, unhygienic, presents that way, Jack Schlossberg. So, to the wood chipper we go. You know that line in Apocalypse Now, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. I love the sound of a wood chipper all day and all night. My first piece of evidence, humbly submitted before you, troublemaker jury. Back in 2011, I don't know if you remember this. I mean, why would you? It didn't last very long. Chelsea got hired as a quote unquote news correspondent at NBC. Experience? None. Just like JFK Jr. when he started George Magazine, or just like Jack Schlossberg being a failed political correspondent for Vogue. No journalism experience whatsoever. Jack, last seen rolling around town in his murder van, doing his struggling podcast. That is a Law and Order waiting to happen. A disgraced political scion who has a podcast and a murder van and uses his podcast to lure unsuspecting women. That is potentially an SVU. Anyway, so I pulled up this piece. I was like, wait a minute, I think I wrote about this because I would get so like worked up about Chelsea. Just like she's such a gnat. She's like a gnat. And she won't go, she's like that gnat. You can't get your palm over it to kill it. I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just want her to go away. So I wrote and reported this piece on her for the New York Post back when I was there. This is dated February 25th, 2017. And this is the relevant part about her hiring at NBC News. Okay. In 2012, after decades of dodging the press, she even once said to a child journalist, are we developing a theme here? Ryan Reynolds being an ass to a child journalist. A child journalist asked Chelsea like a child journalist question. And Chelsea said, paraphrasing, I have a blanket approach to the media, the very media she wanted to join for a high-paying glamour job. Okay, very media. I have a blanket policy with the media that I don't give commentary. So I don't give quotes. So even though I think you're very cute, I can't talk to you, kid. So she decided that she wanted to get a job at, and not just start in a newsroom at an affiliate somewhere in a small town and work her way up. No, that's for like hicks and yokels and jokers like the rest of us. No. Chelsea wants to start at the top. She wanted to get hired by one of the big three networks, okay? So she met with all of them. And according to BuzzFeed, those meetings were painful. And you know what? Good. Those executives should suffer for taking meetings with Chelsea Clinton. One executive said, and I'm quoting, Chelsea and her team, quote, acted like we should be grateful that she was in the room. Shades of John Jr. It's in Ask Not, when he was peddling George magazine around town, asking for millions of dollars in venture capital. They all said this guy came in, zero preparation, worst pitch I'd ever seen. And he was like, hey, you should feel lucky to be meeting with me. Another executive vis-a-vis Chelsea in these boardroom meetings with network executives. By the way, the morning show recap is coming. Next nerve. There were ground rules, another executive said, on what Chelsea could and couldn't report. And she only wanted to report good news. And guess what? That network passed. If it bleeds, it leads, you dummy. Now, and you think she would know because her father was at the center of one of the biggest political scandals in American history. I mean, that story only went on for a year. I mean, the New York Times only used it as an excuse so they could publish the Star report. Semen getting squirted on Monica Lewinsky's dress. Daddy's semen. Daddy's cigar. Up Monica's hoo-ha. We're going to get to Monica, by the way. Okay. So anyway, so Chelsea, she's too classy for bad news. So she eventually did get hired over at NBC. And, at the time, they had Brian Wilson on their roster and Matt Lauer. Oh, no, wait, Brian Williams. Sorry. Brian Williams, that pathological liar who got fired for pathologically lying. And Matt Lauer. So why not add a star like Chelsea to that incredible roster? Her starting salary was $600,000 a year. Trust me when I tell you that is not an average starting salary for new on-air talent. No. So Chelsea got $600K a year to conduct a few cringeworthy interviews. And this is how we all knew that NBC was desperate to force her to quit. I don't know if you've ever had a manager who's tried to force people to quit. I don't think Chelsea really got the memo. So after some really thumpingly boring interviews, she's boring. The problem with Chelsea is she's a bore. She's boring. She's not interesting, nor is she interested. I don't think she's interested in ideas. I don't think she's interested in other people. I think that she is dull. I think she's like clinically dull. I think if you found yourself seated next to her at a dinner party, you would absent yourself. You'd probably just call an Uber and go home. Baltimore Sun, Chelsea Clinton finds her level after this interview aired. Now, not only did NBC have her interview an advertiser, but as best I can tell and as best I can remember, they did not even have a single cutaway to Chelsea in this piece. Let's take a look at it.
Hi, Gecko. Thanks so much for answering our questions.
Oh, thank you, Chelsea. Look, sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I'm out on the road promoting my new book, You're Only Human.
It's the Geico Gecko.
I completely understand. Now, Gecko, do people recognize you on the street?
Actually, Chelsea, people don't usually notice me on the street because I'm only 6.9 inches tall. I spend most of my time just trying not to get stepped on. But I do get better tables at restaurants than I used to.
Is there a downside to all this fame?
Well, it seems the more famous you are, the more likely someone is to dig up your old yearbook photos.
And look what we dug up.
Oh my God.
You're showing this, aren't you?
The Geico Geckos.
Chelsea, I thought we were friends.
Mocked up
I'm going to remember
yearbook photo.
I just couldn't resist. Well, it's been great.
Oh my God.
with
Okay, we
you,
can
and I
stop
wish
it
you the
here.
best of
It's
luck.
just embarrassing. So not only did they force a former first daughter to interview the Geico Gecko, they scripted her inane questions and they didn't even put her on camera. And trust me when I tell you, that is a savage cut. The execs at NBC were sending her an undeniable message, which is you're really not an on-camera personality, honey, for many reasons. From my piece, back to the Post. This is my gracious challenge with her, said NBC producer Jay Kernis in 2012. Trust me when I tell you that newsmen in major newsrooms do not speak like this. My gracious challenge. Okay. There are a lot of expletives and a lot of, it's a hard charging place in a real newsroom. Okay. Jay, people in television constantly interrupt each other, but when you are with Chelsea, you really need to allow her to finish. She is not used to being interrupted in that way. Well, make her get used to it, Jay. You're the boss, are you not? So what did NBC get for that purchase price? That's what they got. That's what they got, a non-talent that they eventually embarrassed and successfully ran out of the halls of NBC News. And again, there's a legacy there, okay? And Chelsea is such an embarrassment. She really is. So then after falling on her face there at NBC, Chelsea co-authored some books with her mother because the only world in which even the liberal media wants to hear from Chelsea Clinton is if her mother is in tow. Then in 2019, New York Magazine did a puff piece on Chelsea. 2019. And I wrote a column about it again for the Post. And this one was dated Halloween. How fitting. Ghoulish. Chelsea, this New York Magazine piece solemnly declares, I wrote, is, quote, trying to figure out what her, this is Chelsea's, this is the New York Magazine, sorry, from that profile, quote, trying to figure out what her own life looks like, okay? She was on the verge of turning 40. Hamlet had a less dramatic existential crisis. Now, here's some of Chelsea's gibberish in that puff piece, and trust me, it doesn't even matter what the question was. And I quote Chelsea Clinton, I think there is this sense, this perception now that ... ellipses, is it just too hard? And yet so many of the same people who are asking that are themselves persisting to ensure that it's not as hard as tomorrow. I have no idea what she means. None. And this is a woman who went to the best schools on the East Coast. Oh, sorry, she went to college on the West Coast. I have no idea what she's talking about. I have no clue. Now, she also said when asked for the millionth time about, will you run, Chelsea? Because the media kept pushing Chelsea to run for office. Why? I have no idea. She's never even had a real job. What does she know about the real world? Get out. These are not, congressional and Senate seats are not consolation prizes for the overeducated, underaccomplished children, mediocre at best, of political dynasties. Okay? They're not. Chelsea takes this very seriously, though, right? Will I run? Chelsea says, well, I don't have any plans to run for office. I think it's something that all of us who care about our communities and our country and our world, we're stretching this out. It's like Kamala. It's like Megan. It's like, let's just add word upon word upon word so I can delay a thought or make it sound like I'm saying something important when I'm not. Anyway, she thinks we should all be thinking about it. Get out, okay? The idea that Chelsea Clinton could survive a bare-knuckled political campaign is hilarious. It is laughable. Never, ever. She's far too decorous for it. She couldn't even hack it in a newsroom. She had her mommy, no doubt, calling her friends at NBC going, you know what, just don't give Chelsea a hard time. And, you can't interrupt her and let her just do what she wants, okay? And, she only wants to do good news, which, Chelsea could not have even hacked the piece we just ran on Tuesday's Nerve, the emotional support alligator. I would have sent her to that one. I would have had some fun with Chelsea if I were her news director. Anyway, okay, now, Chelsea is not going to give up on the stream of being a media star. She is not. She's just like Meghan Markle and Michelle Obama and a ton of other hapless non-talents out there who want to move out of the political lane or the royal lane for podcasting. Chelsea is not going to give up on the stream, even though she's already had a podcast. Okay. And that one failed too. Now, that one was imaginatively called In Fact with Chelsea Clinton. In fact, because we're such, what's the word I'm looking for? We're just like a scold. And we're like that person who's always correcting people when it doesn't even matter. You just let it go. She's the person at the dinner table at the dinner party who's like, you have that fact wrong or you mispronounced that name, because that's all she can offer. She doesn't have an original thought clunking around that head. Anyway, In Fact, I had never heard of In Fact with Chelsea Clinton. I'm sure none of you troublemakers have heard of it. So now she's back with a new podcast that is seems to be doubling down on the failed one. And this one is called That Can't Be True with Chelsea Clinton. And she's going by Dr. Chelsea Clinton now, you guys. So it's Dr. Chelsea to us, okay? Because we're a professor or some shit. She's not a medical doctor, but she's doing a podcast in which she's breaking apart what she says is pseudoscience and medical misinformation while going by the doctor honorific, the doctor title, totally unearned. Fuck off. Fuck off. We all know it's really code for anti-Maha. We know that. Now, I'm going to say, don't even worry about the topics because it doesn't matter because nobody's listening. She doesn't even have a YouTube channel. What are we doing? You have a podcast, but you don't have a YouTube channel? Again, I wonder why. All right. But anyway, I'm just being a bitch. I'm just being a full bitch. We are now competing with Daddy's ex-girlfriend, Monica Lewinsky, in the podcast space. And just like Monica, Chelsea is rehashing the same shit over and over and over. Now, just for kicks, let's take a look at Monica, host of the Reclaiming podcast, talking about the Clinton scandal for the millionth time over on Call Her Daddy.
It was devastating. It was devastating at the time. And I think what we see now in today's world, and as a grown woman, I hate to break it to any 24-year-olds listening to this, because I know from 21 to 25, you think you know everything. You're like, I'm a fucking adult now. I know everything. True. I'm so sorry to tell you, you will look back on this time and be like, oh.
What an original observation. What an original thought she's just brought to us all that we can really, really just think on, that when you're in your early 20s, you think you know everything. It's called a cliche, Monica. It's why your podcast isn't making any waves in the culture. And by the way, that Unwell bottle next to her, I know that's Alex Cooper's brand, Unwell, but that Unwell bottle next to her, that is some next level trolling, because I think Monica Lewinsky is unwell. I think when you perseverate on something that happened to you, this was 97, 98, the writers doing math, 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago. I think that means you are unwell and you should really be in the care of a psychoanalyst or a psychiatrist who can help you move past this, because she's got nothing else to say. That's what's up. And I do think something's wrong with her. I think there's a cynical part of me that thinks this is the podcast because it's the only thing that's remotely interesting about Monica Lewinsky. She's otherwise not an interesting person. Frankly, the Clinton Lewinsky scandal, that was the best thing that ever could have happened to her. She really enjoys being famous. And this is the only thing she's got to get there and to stay here. You know what I'm saying? In the world of media. Now, there's a video of her on stage. She partnered with Amanda Knox on yet another iteration of the Amanda Knox story. And similarly, I'm really sick of hearing about it. We know the Amanda Knox story. How many iterations do we possibly need? But anyway, here's Monica on stage with Amanda Knox. The Daily Mail had this video, crying about what happened to her back in 97 or 98. Let's take a look.
I know it was important for both Amanda and myself. And I think some of
audio's not great. I apologize.
Really moved me in the finale, as also in episode 7 and 20th Television and Hulu were so incredible to let us do this, was showing the aftermath. Because it's very hard for people to understand that this happens not just to a person, but to a family. And
oh my God. Okay, it's enough. It's enough. Listen, her tears, while I believe are genuine, are very disturbing. She should be well past this. She should be able to joke about it. She really should. If she were healthy, if she were a healthy, integrated person, she would be able to make a joke about it. And sorry, honey, this is the cost of business. Your tears are what's getting you meetings with the people at 20th and Hulu. We're such an industry insider now. Fuck off. Okay, now back to Chelsea's new podcast. let's take a look at her teaser, which luckily or unluckily has a visual component. This went up on Instagram as I'm talking to you now. This thing is 5 days ago or 6 days ago. And at this very moment, her trailer has a devastating 832 likes.
Is it just me, or are things really weird right now in the world of public health? Every day seems to bring yet another confusing headline or far-fetched claim. We're living in a time when vaccines, one of the greatest advances in human history, are somehow up for debate, and where parents scroll TikTok and maybe only TikTok for medical advice. Not to mention the cuts to cancer research, to brain health research, to women's health research.
We're knitting our eyebrows.
To the total dismantling of the suicide prevention hotline for LGBTQ plus kids. People's lives are at risk. So on my new podcast, That Can't Be True, we're going to sort fact from fiction on the issues that relate to our health. I'm Chelsea Clinton, an advocate, author, teacher, investor, and most importantly, mom, who is navigating this somewhat crazy time right alongside you. And I'm teaming up with Limonada Media to shine a light on what's real.
Oh my God. Okay, we're done. We're done. This is so boring. It's so boring and it's so earnest. And I love the eyebrows knitting. Like, I'm just so confused by what's happened. You know, listen, your dad was in a position to, listen, public health. There are fewer words that incite joy and excitement and provocative feelings and edge than the words public health. I conk out. Now, this latest attempt to slingshot Chelsea into media fame is a joint production between Lemonada, late of Meghan Markle, and the Clinton Foundation. And it seems they're very proud of this. So Clinton Foundation donors just know this is where your money's going. The charity case is Chelsea, who at age 45, mommy and daddy are still trying to buy her a media career using the Clinton Foundation's coffers. And I'll say this, the media, despite the presence of nepo baby Jenna Bush Hager, we got to keep that Bush in there, 'cause that's what's making us relevant, and Michelle Obama and Oprah's platonic friend Gail. Those three aside, media is largely a place that's a meritocracy. It is a place where talent will win out every time. Every time. It is so competitive. It is so difficult. It is often cutthroat that bosses simply do not have tolerance for anyone who can't or won't get the job done, let alone a would-be reporter who needs to finish all of her sentences and be spoken to very politely and insists that her remit will only be good news, okay? Chelsea Clinton has never had a real job. She lives in a $10 million Union Square apartment in New York City, purchased by her parents, doubtless out of guilt over podcast competitor Monica. You know what? Monica has a podcast. Chelsea has a podcast. Chelsea lives in downtown New York City. Monica lives in downtown New York City. They both know Bill Clinton. You know what they should do? They should team up. Chelsea, do you want to go viral? Do you want to make headlines and generate some clicks and get some eyeballs on your otherwise loser podcast? Sit down with Monica. You and she can talk about reclaiming, and you can talk to her about what sickness is, because I think you're both sick, just not in the ways that you think. So let's listen to Chelsea try to be just a relatable mom, which is really, I think, the province of cowards. I'm a relatable mom trying to figure out what is best for her kid.
My 9-year-old told me the other day that we have enough iron in our bodies to make a 3-inch nail.
There you go.
Right? I was like, wow,
I don't even know that that's true, but it must be. He must have learned it in science class.
I don't know, but I think he learned it in science class. Since he's definitely not scrolling Instagram or has any access to technology.
Yeah,
probably actually, or National Geographic or science class.
That's great.
But I'm not going to eat a 3-inch nail,
No.
even though apparently
Oh,
I
that's
have
so
enough
funny.
iron in my
It's
body
really
to make
so
one.
witty. I'm not going to eat a 3-inch nail. My son. So she doesn't even know where her kid is learning this stuff. And by the way, her kid is 9. Chelsea, if you think your child has no access to technology, if he wants to get it, he'll get it. Wake up, sister. But she has no idea where he's getting this stuff, even though she's just a relatable mom, and she's got to disabuse. Clearly, she's raising some geniuses over here. I can't. Anyway, here's what Chelsea said of herself in 2013, and I quote, "I wish that I had," this might be one of the saddest things I've ever heard, "I wish that I had one galvanizing ambition that I could reverse engineer my life toward." Truer words. Listen, sister, making a good podcast is harder than it looks, okay? I think everybody thinks you can just do it, I'm sure Chelsea thinks she's the smartest person in the room. The Nerve wouldn't be the Nerve without Team Nerve. You know what I'm saying? She thinks, she thinks she's the smartest person in the room, and she's doing her podcast as like a public service, which is boring. Nobody wants a public service podcast. That's what NPR is for. Chelsea, take your ever-present ongoing existential crisis and just go away, okay? Just go away. And that, my beloved troublemakers, that does it for tonight. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on our very first edition of The Nerve at Night. We are already having so much fun putting the show together, and we want to hear from you about what you would love as recurring segments for this or recurring guests for The Nerve at Night, and what you want for the Substack, which we cannot wait to give you. Hit me up, as you so often do, via email at Maureen@devilmaycaremedia.com or DM me on Instagram at Maureen Callahan Writer or at The Nerve Show until Friday, where we will see you back here at The Nerve, where you will never guess what we're about to say next.